Hi, welcome back to the farm. My name's Roz, also known as Passion Flower, and you'll find me here each week talking about my farming and creative life. As I sat down to record today, I didn't think I was going to have all that much to talk about, but I went through my phone and the pictures from this past week, and I think I do have a little bit. And there seems to be quite a pile of WIPs as well. So, yeah, I do have some stuff to chat about today. We've had such varying conditions in the weather this past week. We had a high 30s day, and then we had a day that was like 19, and we even got some really heavy rain. It rained overnight, uh, 3 nights ago, and it was the most wonderful sound on the roof to fall asleep to and to wake up and still hear in the middle of the night. It hasn't made much of a dent in terms of the dryness and the uh, water levels anywhere, but it was a really nice relief to get a little bit of rain. I've got the sheep out here grazing on the very, very crunchy ground, um, which is different from the dirt, which is in their paddock, um, just to give them a little bit of interest. But they were barring at me just before because I think they really want some green grass, but there is no green grass anywhere. And when I'm done here, they'll go back into their paddock and they'll just have their hay in there. Last weekend, I went to Ballarat. I went to the stitching and movie afternoon that was for the bushfire relief funds, and that was a really great afternoon. I'll put the details here. You are still able to donate to that cause, and they will be drawing prizes for people who donate. So if you go ahead and check that out, that will be really great to support the victims of the bushfires earlier this year. So we went up to Ballarat and saw the movie, and then we went and stayed at our family's holiday house, not that far away from there. And that was a really nice time to just sort of sit and craft. And we did a jigsaw puzzle, or attempted parts of a jigsaw puzzle, and then came back the following day. We did do a little bit of gardening up there as well, just to keep everything looking nice, cleared some leaves, and did some raking. So a little bit of gardening that weekend as well. And then at the start of this week, Adam and I, one afternoon, we went out on the Hilux and we did some spraying of the boundary line. So we've had all the paddocks now cut for grass, and Adam has been slashing around the boundaries over the summer, even before we had the hay cut. And what we needed to do was spray the weeds or the grass right at the fence line. Otherwise, you get like a thick section of grass right above where the fence is, and that can start to interfere with the electric fence. And it also is a bit of a fire hazard and looks quite messy too. So just to clear that out, so we used, sorry, I'm watching Hurley reach as far as he possibly can to find a little bit of like green weed grass just out here. He's literally pushed one of the fence posts almost all the way over so that he can get his head out through a hole. Sorry, what was I saying? Um, oh yeah, so we sprayed the boundary. We used the blackberry spray rig that we've got borrowed at the moment. We figured that while we had that unit, we might as well use it for that spraying as well as for blackberries. And yeah, it was good to get out and do that after work. I haven't had a ton of energy to do any dyeing this past week. As I said, it has still been reasonably hot over here. So I have not been all that motivated at the end of a day to come over here and dye yarn. I do have still huge plans, and I have just ordered some new yarn, a new base, which will be coming to markets when they start. I'll put a link below to where all of my markets will be for this year on my website. I have a whole list of where I will be and all the ones that have been confirmed. And I'm going to be reasonably busy this year, which is exciting. So I do need to start getting prepared. I was saying to someone just the other day, oh, it's at the end of March, that's ages away, but it's really not. It's only next month, and February is a short month. So we're coming up very quickly on the beginning of March. So I need to start getting myself into gear. First to what I'm wearing this week, this is the Daybreak tee. It is knit out of an 8 ply. This is a recycled denim cotton. It's not one that I gravitate to all the time, partially because of the lace work at the top, but it's not like overly revealing or anything. I think it's just not sort of what I like to wear, but it's a good one for wearing today over here in the shed. So yeah, that's it. Now, as I said, I didn't think I had quite all that much to show you, but now that I'm looking at my pile, I really do have quite a bit. First, to my finished, for the second time, Melanie jumper. I showed you last week I was almost done. So I've re-knit both of the sleeves, and I've done the pinned or sewn down the cuff on the inside, and I have done the body, and I've sewn down the cuff on the hem on the bottom all the way around for the body. So straight after this is going to get onto the blocking mats. I'm going to throw it in some water and block it out. So I've done 3/4 sleeves, and it's a reasonable length. It's not cropped by any means. I did knit a few more rounds from what I had initially thought, so that I had enough to do that fold up. This fold up at the end took forever to do, but I'm really happy with how it looks. I think it's a really, really nice look. So hopefully I get a lot of wear out of it, and it's worth having done that little extra piece of detail rather than just doing a bind off on the bottom. I was going to try it on now and show you, but it is pretty warm today, and I just don't think that I would enjoy putting it on. So I'll wait until the cooler weather to show you. But yeah, it is now ready for blocking. All the ends are woven in, they're just loose, and I'll cut those when it's been blocked properly. And I forgot to tell you, so this is out of Leosum wool, Pole Merino. That is the grey, and the coral colour is Fiberific, which is a tencel lace. So there are the two. Oops, sorry, that didn't work too well, is it? There's the grey and the pink there together. And they make a really beautiful fabric. And I'm actually quite excited now to try and experiment with some other combinations of some lace that I have in my stash with some 4-ply or 5-ply yarn to create my own colorway and to get sort of a DK weight that I'm able to make a jumper out of. So look forward to seeing that coming up. Not quite yet, but certainly I've been sitting looking at my yarn stash when I'm knitting in the evenings, and I'll go, oh, that might go really nicely with that. And then I'll sit them together and have a look at them and think about it. So there's a few of those combinations coming together. And now I just need to figure out which patterns I think I might like to make with them. At the movie afternoon, I worked on my stripy rainbow sock with the yarn from Heather May, which is in the Lollipop Pastel colorway, Rainbow Lollipop Pastel. And I think I got to the pink stripe during the movie, and I was down here. So I got quite a bit done. And then when I got home, I turned the heel and just got the next color in. And I honestly haven't worked on this since that end of that weekend. So I've been focusing on my other WIPs. But this was a really great semi-dark movie knitting. I've also been working on some 4-ply socks as well. Those ones were 8-ply in a new colorway that I'm working on for my Christmas colorway for 2026. So I have finished one sock, and I'm reasonably happy with the color distribution. It kind of gets a little bit further apart here compared to down here, but I think that it will repeat itself once I get through more of the ball. So I will probably cast on the second one and see how that goes. And I've got a couple of ideas on how to refine this colorway a little bit to make sure that I get a bit more of an even spread of color. But for a first attempt at a new technique, I am super happy with how this has come out. I am going to put those socks on hold though for a while. I'm not going to cast on the second one right now. what I did instead is I've cast on the cuff of a glove for my mum. She's asked me for some fingerless gloves, so proper fingerless gloves, not like mitts that just have like the whole round, but actually do all the individual fingers. She does a lot of walking and she likes to be able to keep her hands warm and most of her fingers warm, but then be able to still use her phone or check her Apple Watch or things like that. So she wants to be able to still use her fingertips. So I am using a basic glove pattern by Pearl Soho. Um, I cast on for the small adult size and tried it on, and it was way too big for my hand. So I have recast on using the smallest size, which is like the supposed to be the child size, I think. But like it's this is ribbing, so it's super stretchy, and I'm able to really easily slip that over my wrist. And mum's hand is basically the same size as mine, so it makes it really easy to be able to create these for her. I'm using some 4-ply of my own yarn. So this is my lattice sock base in the olive colorway. And I found this scrap yarn in my stash, and I think it's jitterbug yarn, but I couldn't be 100% sure about that. I don't have a label anymore. It's probably in my stash on Ravelry somewhere. So I'm using that to stripe through the cuff here. I'm about ready. I think I'm going to do a couple more rows and then I'm going to start on the hand. Um, I have been looking at a pattern on my phone, but I think while I'm over here in the shed, I'll print out a copy because that'll make it easier, and then I can make notes so that I can make sure that the first and the second glove look basically the same. And I'm thinking that I will do the whole palm in the green, and then I'll probably alternate between the green and this for the thumb and the finger. So probably color, green, color, green, color. That's what I'm thinking. So yeah, I made a little bit of progress on that. This has been my evening knitting for the past few days because it's been quite mindless to just do some one by one rib, and it's been fun to just throw in some extra color as I go. And my final active WIP is the Avena cardigan. I have been a little slower on this only because it is quite warm yarn and it's been really humid, so it's not been the most pleasant thing to work on. As it starts to get cooler and the humidity drops, this is going to be a go-to to wear, or not to wear, to knit so that I can wear it. Um, so last time I showed you, I haven't really done a stack though, as I said, because it's sort of been one of those too warm to work on things. So this is the body and the bottom hem, exactly the same as it was last week, the tubular bind off, and I have not picked up the stitches across here yet. So instead, what I decided to do was to cast on one of the sleeves. I was going to do them two at a time, but I I changed my mind. So I'm doing them singularly. This is the first sleeve. Now, this yarn is the yarn that I talked about in the business section that I have just purchased to start to introduce to the shop. So this is an 8-ply brushed merino. So you get that fuzz without having any mohair, and you don't have to hold two things together. It is really light. It's not a dense fabric. I'm knitting this on a 4.5, I think. Yeah, and I really like that gauge. Um, so it's got a little bit of structure, but it's not really heavy and dense. So I think it's going to be a really lovely piece to wear over the top of a like a 3/4 top or even a t-shirt during winter. Um, and even with all of this fabric here, it is not super heavy, which I really, really like. So I'm looking forward to some dye sessions here shortly once the new base arrives, because I only ordered a small amount to try out for myself. So now I have ordered enough to be able to dye up some batches to bring to market throughout the year. I will be dyeing this color, which I think I'm going to call Mushroom. And I'll probably create some brand new colors to go on this base as well. I want to try and make sure that I can do reasonable dye batch lots of it, so that if you want to make a garment out of it, they're all going to be from the same dye lot. And I want to also be mindful of using less water. So I think if I try to create some new colors with all of that in mind, I will get some really interesting colorways that will really suit this space. And I think that's really important, rather than trying to just transfer all of my colors onto this particular yarn, because I feel like the purpose of this yarn is going to be to make cozy jumpers, maybe beanies and scarves, but it's going to be using quite a number of balls to create the end project. So I want the colors to be, blending through like this and looking really great. So, sorry, now I'm talking about business instead of about the craft, but it kind of, obviously it all kind of works together, and that's how I get my inspiration going one way or the other, in terms of the color inspiring a project, or the project inspiring a color, or working on something new. So that will be happening soon. I'm definitely thinking about the colors that I'd like to create, but yeah, this one will be one of them, and I'm thinking that I'll do some other similar kinds of dye style to this, so that I get this kind of result in the finished knit product. So this is the first time that I've knit a cardigan from the bottom up, where you knit the sleeves as a round and then you attach them. And I kind of don't really have it in my head how that works. So I'm going to have to look at some YouTube tutorials and figure it out, but I'm just trusting the pattern at this stage in terms of that. I'm not 100% following the sleeve pattern, no. It had you doing 10 increases reasonably close together through this first section of the arm up here, but my arm doesn't grow all that much between my wrist and my elbow, and then I kind of get a bit of width up here to my, up here. So what I've decided to do is just change the frequency that I'm doing those increases. So I did a few, then I've paused a little bit, and I'm doing a few more rows before I do the increases, and then I'm sort of going back to doing them at much smaller intervals again as I get up into this, into my forearm and my bicep. So at the moment it is just at my elbow bend. So I've still got a reasonable amount to go. I think it's supposed to be like 43 centimeters. I'm kind of not sure where it's going to connect and how that's all going to work. But as I said, I'm just going to trust the pattern and see how it turns out. And maybe go on YouTube and have a look at some of other people's, attaching circularly knit sleeves to a flat piece for a cardigan, because I just cannot picture how that's going to work, but I'm sure that it will. Well, that's it for another week. Thanks for spending some time with me. If you're enjoying these videos, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I look forward to seeing you next week on the farm. Bye.